Welcome back, everybody, to VGA. As always, I'm your host, the beast from the east, the best in the west, the biggest video game addict here to put you to the test. That's right, it's Ultra Magnus. Thanks for joining me here today on Video Game Addicts, guys, in our very first episode of Tips and Tricks, where hopefully we'll arm you with enough information with which you'll go out there and arm yourselves to become much better FPS players. Now, some of these tips and tricks, guys, I've picked up throughout my experience playing first-person shooters, as well as friends have given me. I've also gotten a lot of these from watching other players and tips and tricks videos here on YouTube. And I'll probably mention a few other YouTubers, two of which come to mind are Woody's Gamertag and T Martin. Now, these guys do their homework. They've been playing games long enough that they know what they're talking about. So do yourself a favor and probably go and check out their channels, guys. You've got nothing to lose and everything to gain. Now, a lot of this info that I'm going to give you guys, you may very well say, well, Ultra Magnus, I know all this already. Well, that's very fine and well. For all of those more experienced players out there, that's great. Think of this as more of a refresher course. Things that you may have forgotten that you just a slight reminder about. Because I can tell you that we all get lazy when it comes to games. You may get in a match where you're slaughtering a bunch of noobs, and one of the tactics that you normally would incorporate into your gameplay, you don't have to rely on because these noobs are obviously, they're not aware of that strategy or tactic, and they're allowing you to do things that you normally wouldn't otherwise, let's say. So you get lazy is what I'm basically trying to say, and you forget about the things that you're supposed to be doing. And sometimes after 10 matches you get into a lobby where you've got you're playing against experienced players and you're getting slaughtered, and you forget, oh my god, I'm not keeping my sights up. So for you guys out there, this will be a refresher course, and for the less experienced players, these are basically like 10 easy rules or steps to incorporate into your regimen in order to become a much better first-person shooter. Now, to get us started, guys, the first thing that you're going to want to do is bring up the multiplayer Xbox Live menu and get to the multiplayer lobby menu, where you can proceed to look for a match. You'll go to public match and find match, and then once we proceed to playlists, you can choose the different types of game styles that you want to play. But most importantly, what we're here to look at right now is, if you look down in the bottom right hand corner, you'll see where it says search preferences, press X. We're going to press X, and we are going to look for the different types of connection types. Now, we've got best, any, and normal. Each of those can be helpful in their own rights, depending where you live and what type of connection quality you have to the internet and to the servers. But what I suggest is that you choose best, because it'll look for the best connection possible for you to play on, closest to you, and all of that wonderful jazz. Most importantly, to keep in mind, sure, it may take you 2 to 3 minutes, maybe even sometimes longer, depending on your connection quality, to find a match, but it is well worth it, ladies and gentlemen. Let me tell you that it is worth playing in a lobby that is best versus any or normal any day of the week, because this game, I will tell you, and I don't think many people will disagree with me, that it is all connection based. 80% of this game is connection based. You may be the best player in the world, but if you have the poorest connection, it doesn't matter how many bullets you put in that other player first. If they're not going to register when you're hitting the player, you're not going to win the gunfight. Plain and simple. So we're going to set it to best. And the next thing we're going to do is what I would like to refer to as lobby farm. And this is due to the fact that because this game is internet connection based, what we're going to try to do is get into, well, what you're going to do essentially is hop into a lobby, let the match start, see what type of connection quality you have. If it's a 3-bar, you may want to decide to play and see what the game feels like, whether it's in your favor in terms of the lag compensation and just the connection to the host in general. Or if it's a 4-bar, you're going to be rocking. You'll be stoked. Anything below a 3-bar, you might as well back out and search for another lobby. And I say this, guys, only because I assume that a lot of you out there are just like me, and I have a much more enjoyable experience with a better internet connection to the game. So, number 1, lobby farm. Find yourselves the best internet connection possible, which equals much better experience and much more enjoyable gameplay with playing the game. Now, the next thing that you're going to want to do, guys, is go into combat training. Thanks to the wonderful folks at Treyarch, they've given us this little, I don't know what to call it, a portion of the game that allows you to go in and play against AI. So you can go in on each of the different maps that are available for multiplayer, and it gives you the ability to familiarize yourself with the map and the weapons that you'll be using as you're earning, or as you increase in rank in multiplayer and as you earn newer weapons. This gives you the ability to try all of them beforehand. So I totally suggest going in there, guys, playing the maps and getting a chance to familiarize yourself with hitting moving targets, what it's like to use certain weapons with different attachments. Find what you like about the game before actually going out into multiplayer and getting your butt kicked. This will give you a leg up on the competition. And another thing that is wonderful about this as well that these guys have given us is boot camp this time around, which allows you to actually increase your rank in multiplayer before actually getting out there and playing multiplayer against other people. I mean, granted, you will be playing against AI and other players in the same rank category, so be aware of that. But still, regardless, you've got the ability to rank up in multiplayer 10 levels, I believe, before you have to go into multiplayer. And this just allows you, like I said, to familiarize yourself with the weapons and the maps before getting out there and getting your butt kicked. Alright guys, so I've brought up here, I've selected a film in theater for us to have a look at. We're going to deconstruct it in some way while I run through the points that I think everyone should be implementing in terms of their gameplay style and their tactics. So let's get it started here. Now, first off, one thing that maybe a lot of you may think is silly, and I shouldn't have to tell you any of this, but the most important thing, or one of the more important things, really, I think that everyone should be doing is keeping your sight centered. Now, when you're running around the map, see how my sights are actually in the middle of the screen right now? When you're running around the map, your sight should always be centered. It just facilitates being able to hit a moving target or any target, regardless of the fact. What it allows you to do is you don't have to move your sights. If you're looking down toward the corner of the map and your sights are down in the left-hand corner, if your target's up in the opposite corner, in the right-hand corner, you have a greater distance to have to cover with your sights before you actually get to this to your target to actually hit it. Now, if it's a moving target, then just like that, it makes it much more difficult. So keep your sights centered, and you'll have less distance to hit your enemy, and you'll have a greater chance of actually hitting your target than you would otherwise. Now, the second thing here, aside from keeping your sights centered, is keeping your sights up. It's a lot easier to have your sights up and hit an enemy than to bring your sights up and shoot him. Which brings up another point that I may add. Shooting from the hip, ladies and gentlemen, is much faster than bringing up your sights to gun down an enemy. In a gunfight where an enemy is hip firing versus your sight fire, I guarantee that you will lose every single time. Whether it's an SMG versus an assault rifle or vice versa, you will lose. So do yourselves a favor, guys, and keep your sights up. Now, the easiest way to do that is before you enter a room or an area of the map that you know an enemy may be occupying, what you're going to want to do is keep your sights up before you walk around a corner, let's say. These two fools camping in the middle of the map. That was a really poor grenade toss. Unfortunately, that's what combat training is all about. Go there and practice throwing grenades at doors and get yourself familiar with the map, and it will help you out a ton. But getting back on topic here, guys, so keeping your sights up, you know, preemptive strikes, so to speak. Woody's gamertag has mentioned a lot in his videos that, you know, when it comes to a gunmetal, you want it to not be a fair fight. You want it to be in your favor. You want to control the engagement, is what he uses, I believe. And that's essentially what you want to do. You want to be able to control the engagement to the point where you are going to win the gun battle or between you and your enemy 100% of the time. Now, of course, that isn't to say that you're going to win it 100% of the time, but at least you're increasing your odds, you know? So, number 3, keep up your sights, guys. It's a lot easier to aim down your sights and hit an enemy with more accuracy than it is to hip fire, and it's easier to do that if your sights are already up before you see your enemy. Now, number 4. Is that number 4? Let me have a look here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Actually, we're on number 5 already. Holy moly. Alright, is to use the mini-map, guys. That's number 5. If you look in the top left-hand corner, you will see that there are blue triangles moving around the map and red dots that are appearing sporadically. Well, those red dots are the enemy when they fire their weapons. If they're using an unsuppressed weapon, you will see that enemy when they fire their weapon on the map. The blue arrows represent your teammates, and that represents or shows you what they are doing and where they are on the map at the time. Now, keep in mind, this is, as you look at the mini-map, unfortunately you can't see it right now, but normally if you look at the mini-map, you'll see there's a pulse that goes across from the left to the right. Well, as it sweeps across the map, it gives you an impression or shows you where the enemy and where your teammates are and before the next pulse. So there is a bit of a delay between each pulse. Keep that in mind, that when you do see a red dot, it doesn't necessarily mean the red dot is exactly at that location. They may be moving when the pulse goes across the screen, so keep that in mind, guys. But using the mini-map, that is one of the probably one of the greatest things that will help you in terms of getting kills. Now, what this allows you to do is obviously see where your enemy is on the map at all times and where he is moving and where he is going. Alrighty, guys, next, number 6. Never reload in a gunfight. Now, if you're in a gunfight, guys, and you run out of ammo, your best bet is to switch weapons. You have a greater chance to hit your enemy with your secondary weapon than you do reloading. It takes much longer to reload your primary weapon than it does your secondary weapon. So keep that in mind, guys. Never reload in a gunfight. Tip number 6, always switch to your secondary weapon. Now, number 7. What you want to do when it comes to reloading, if after you've done your gunfight and you've expelled your secondary weapon ammo, is find yourself a location or cover where you can successfully exchange your magazine for a fresh one and be reloaded under the guise of some cover where your enemy will either not know where you are or is able to see you while you're reloading. Seeing as I go down the stairs here, I know there's not an enemy in front of me, and I know they're respawning behind me, so that gives me a chance to reload my gun and to re-enter the rear and flank the enemy. Unfortunately, I got shock charged here, but these guys were still unaware of what I was doing, so I was able to come up from behind them, shoot them in the back. Oh, look, it's a bit of a rinse and repeat here. Run down the stairs, reload my gun, run back up the stairs, wait for them to spawn. Oh, there's with the first guy. Picked him up just like a sack of potatoes. Anywho, then step number 7, I guess, if you will, or tip number 7, is reload behind cover. Give yourself something that will allow you to, like I said earlier, to not be seen by your enemy, and will give you the time and the opportunity to reload your weapon so that you can encounter another enemy or you're ready for another gun battle. Now, number 8, now you notice here, this map isn't the best map to use as an example for it, but when you're moving through the map, give yourself the opportunity to move from cover to cover. Never run up in an open area in the middle of a map or any portion of the map, because you're just giving yourself the opportunity to be shot by your enemy. So move from cover to cover. Now, when it comes to number 9, what you're going to want to do, guys, is as you move from cover to cover, check your corners and your field of view. Now, that is one of the obstacles that took me a long time to understand and figure out in this game. And if you guys will learn it earlier on, it will help you a great deal. And what I mean by that is, let's say, by example, you are prone and you think that you're not being seen, and your enemy somehow shoots you and you wondered how you died, and you see in the kill cam that actually your legs were sticking out enough that he could easily see where you were. Well, that's what I'm talking about, field of vision. Giving your opponent a narrow field of vision so he doesn't have the opportunity to see where you are while you are either behind cover or, let's say, head glitching while taking out your enemy. So check corners and remember the field of view. The narrower the field of view, the less chance your enemy has to hit you and the greater chance you have to hit them and win the gunfight. Now, last but not least, guys, is one thing that I think is probably one of the most important tips that I have to provide to you guys is communication between you and the other players on your team. You are 6 people in a squad working together. This is a multiplayer team-based game. Now, if you want to be a lone wolf, I'm sure you could probably support your team with a number of kills that may very well win you the game. But the main objective of the game is to play as a team. Now, when it comes to communicating, in all honesty, I don't tend to run a UAV a whole lot, which is a very useful score streak in helping you and your teammates identify where the enemy is at most times during the match, which will allow you to get more kills. Now, if you communicate well enough with your teammates, you don't need a UAV because you know where the enemy is at all times. If you're able to communicate well enough with your teammates, you can you can do what a lot of people refer to as call-outs. There are certain areas or aspects of the map or buildings that lend themselves to an easy description. You know, this is the half pipe that I'm running by on the left-hand side. Now the rest of the map is one big half pipe, and I guess that's really the vert pipe, I'm sorry. The rest is one big half pipe and skate park. Now, that may be difficult in itself to describe to someone, so you break it down. Now, the outside there, you could always say, oh, well, you know, there's an enemy up by the Lamborghini. Something to that effect, which will allow your teammates to communicate much more effectively, and thus allow you to become a much better player and effectively kill your opponent and win the game. Well, guys, that's my 10 tips and tricks for all of you guys out there. For all you noobs and you experienced players, I hope that this was helpful and useful. If you guys have any tips and tricks of your own that you want to share with me, please, guys, do me a favor and leave a comment in the comment section below. And, of course, guys, if you enjoyed the video and feel so inclined, hit that like button. And if that's the case, do yourself a favor, guys, and subscribe to the channel. This way you're not going to miss any future upcoming episodes. Thanks again from all of us here at VGA, guys. Remember, 24/7, 365, the game is on.